There's never been a better time to have SiriusXM. With even more exclusive content, with over 150 channels in your vehicle, including the widest, deepest variety of music, ad-free. Root for your team. Get news. Listen to whatever makes you laugh. And hear all about your favorite stars. Your Platinum Plan offer includes more than ever before to enjoy online, on your phone, or at home. Create your own ad-free personalized stations powered by Pandora. Hear ad-free extra channels filled with music and enjoy favorite shows with SiriusXM Video. Thousands of hours of shows and performances on demand. What you love is on now.
So when it comes to full-line car audio brands, there are very few that could do what Powerbass does and what they offer to their customers. And that is a really wide assortment of different products under different categories, but also the full control of their manufacturing process as they own their own manufacturing plant. Today on CMA Connected, we've got product expert Erik Harbour in the studio with us tonight to go over all the latest offerings for Powerbass in 2022. This is CMA Connected, presented by SiriusXM, Powerbass, and it starts now. Hey everybody, thanks for tuning in to this CMA Connected presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu, and today it's all about Powerbass, the brand that brings you marine and power sports and all different traditional car audio, as well as now OE application-specific stuff that we'll be talking about today. And they've even gone into soundbars and portables, which I'm sure they're going to be talking about and touching on today as well. But before we get them on, let's get on their Canadian distributor representing BB Distribution, Mr. Justin Bond. Hey, Justin, what's going on? Let's make sure your audio is on. Did you mute yourself? Hello? Nope. We had you on a second ago. Let's get your audio in the audio section. Turn your mic on. No. Tell you what, why don't I give you an opportunity to come back in? And in the meantime, we're going to fast forward a little bit and get our product expert, Mr. Erik Harbour, who's standing by in the studio from Powerbass in California. Let's go ahead and get Erik on.
What's happening?
Erik, what's going on, man?
How are you?
Good morning for you. I'm doing very, very well.
Afternoon for you.
Yeah, absolutely. While we're waiting for Justin to get back, you know, every time we talk about Powerbass, we see the comments coming up in the dialogue, and you know, as big as Powerbass is, people are always surprised to learn the type of stuff that Powerbass offers in so many different categories. And what the reaction is like, wow, we didn't know they did that much stuff. Is that something that surprises you when you hear that?
Yeah, it is. It really is, because I think that, you know, early on, there was just a lot of focus on the core item, you know, the sub and the amp. And through the years, with the great people that have worked here along the way, you know, my predecessors, you know, up to me now, they all started to dig into other things and find holes in the industry that weren't being tapped into. And that's something that we've really kind of focused in on in the last, I'd say 7 years, was trying to do things different and trying to be a different brand than just a sub and amp brand. And I think that, you know, if you saw our brand, you know, years ago, you got kind of used to what you knew. But if you didn't take a second look until now, you realize, wow, there's a lot here. And I kind of joke about how thick our catalog keeps getting. But I think it's neat because we can do that by being our own factory. We're able to kind of just create. And I think that's really awesome.
Not only is it awesome, it's like a superpower when it comes to being a brand. It's like you have that power to be able to engineer and to produce things. Really, what's limiting is the market and your, I guess, the brain power and the time and the resources that you put into it. Really is what it is. You have the tools to do it. But having said that, on one side, there's people that are always surprised to hear about all the things, that Powerbass touches on. But then we talk to those Powerbass customers that have been with you guys for a couple of years, and they're like, man, Powerbass is one of our best partners because it offers me everything I need to do. What is your comment on that? Because, there's brands, there's stores out there that always have that allegiance, let's call it, with these bigger, main brands. How do you feel Powerbass gets in there and really becomes a part of that mix and that partner for that store?
Yeah, sure. I mean, one thing we use on social media a lot is hashtag Powerbass partners. And that's exactly what we want. We want to feel like we're a partner with our dealers and our distributors across the globe. And I think that's the biggest key is that, everyone has product in our industry, but not everyone has the people. And we try to make a partnership or even a friendship with all of our customers so that we're there with them. We're working through things and we listen. When they say something, we listen. And what we found was, like I said earlier, a few minutes ago, there was things missing in the industry that people weren't paying attention to. Or there was things that the industry had, let's say in the early 90s, and it just kind of went away because maybe it was too complicated to produce that odd size. And we decided to stick to some of that and then compound that with new innovation. And we became a solutions company. So that's what we tell all of our reps and out there in the field is understand that we're a solutions-based company. When you go into any store, any retail chain, and you say, hey, I'm with Powerbass, and they immediately say, oh, Powerbass, you got subs and amps. Sure. But let me show you the other stuff. Let me show you the items that your core brand that you've been known for in town to be the brand the store where you go and buy X brand. And, that's the store that sells that brand. But you know what? That brand doesn't have some of the fitments that we have, which we'll discuss a little bit later today. And in that, it enables us to be a part of your business as a partner, showing you what you're missing and showing you what you're kind of leaving on the table in a sense. A lot of this stuff doesn't have to be the forefront item, but it definitely needs to be in the stock room. And the answer to that is when the consumer comes into the store, if you don't have the solution, they will find it elsewhere. So we want to be your solution brand. And then once you get that, you'll fall in love with it. And you'll say, man, this sounds amazing. This works. Let me try this. Let me try that. And next thing you know, we're right there with everything else that you thought was your core idea of your store.
Very, very slick. I like the way you explained that, Eric. You mentioned the word solution. That's a clutch message when it comes from Powerbass. And speaking of solutions, with ever-changing needs of dealers and the market and consumers, application-specific kind of replacement stuff has kind of been on the forefront of a lot of conversation. What's Powerbass doing to address that?
So I mean, that's always been kind of the key is how do we integrate? How do we tap into the OE and make things easy? The other side of this is, time is of the essence. And if you can do an install quick and know that it's a good quality install, you can get your customer back on the road faster. Your installer is then doing more installs in a day. You're more efficient with your time. And we started to look at the fact that everyone's either building adapters out of wood or spending hours cutting rings and, stacking them and fiberglass and adapters to put a 6.5 in. No one wants to do that. The other side of that is, as a dealer, you've got to stock an adapter, you've got to stock a harness, you've got to stock the speaker. And then maybe some of those speakers that were your go-to, they might have been too deep even with the adapter. So you've got 3 or 4 SKUs that you have to carry just to replace a 6.5. So we thought, how do we fix that? Well, we mimic what the factory does and make it better. And we started doing that through Toyota. We ventured into Ford, and we ventured now into General Motors, and we've got Nissan as well. We're working on a few others. It's been great because we've enabled it to where you can install a coaxial or component set, and the hardest part of that job is taking the door panel off.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Exactly. Good news. I think we have Justin back in with us. I'd like to bring him back in because I had an important question to ask him before we dive into the presentation. So once again, Justin from BB Distribution, the exclusive distributor for Powerbass in Canada. Let's bring Justin back in. Hey, Justin.
Hopefully you can hear me now.
Oh, we got you now. So much. Justin, what I wanted to ask, and I kind of got into the conversation with Eric in your absence, is really the question is about OE replacement. It's kind of been a thing that's been happening. Powerbass certainly has an offering already. So I want to pick Erik's brain as far as where Powerbass is with it, but I want to hear what you had to say as far as where the market is with it.
Well, I mean, one thing that is unique and a super strong point for Powerbass is the fact that they're located in California means that they cater to the same domestic market that we do, which means for us, the big three, Chevy, Ford, Dodge, they exist down there as well. And, one thing that, we talk about, I heard Erik talking about, it makes the install simpler. There's no guesswork, none of that. The other thing is, at the end of the day, like with our customers, as much as we would like to keep the install in the bay or in the shop, it doesn't happen, right? Like plain and simple. Some customers say they want to do it themselves. And the problem that can arise is this. If I buy a pair of speakers and I do a terrible install and I show my friend my stereo, it's not, well, I did a terrible install, that's why these speakers suck. It's this brand of speaker is garbage, right? That's where the result is. So in that event, when you have a DIYer or someone like that, when they have something like the OE Fit, it's so seamless. I don't want to use idiot proof, but like Erik said, the hardest part is taking that door panel off, and that speaker is going to do justice because that install is going to be correct, right? As long as you can find the hole, match them up, and plug it in, you're going to have a good sounding speaker.
Well, I'll round us out before we get into the presentation when it comes to this topic, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. But in any situation where there's an application-specific offering, it's rare that the customer, should that customer be presented the option, say no to the one that's actually made specifically for their vehicle. It's just one of those things. It's whether or not you have it and if you're offering it. Because if you did, chances are the customer's going to say, yeah, I want that one, not the universal fit. So anyhow, on that note, we have a quick video that kind of talks a little bit about the new OE stuff that we're touching on. And I know, Erik, you're going to go dive deeper in it, but let's get some visual on it. We'll roll the tape when we get back. Let's dive into the presentation. That's like 6 speaker, no more if you count the tweeters. Call it 8 speakers, less than an hour, I would say. Would you say that's about right?
Oh yeah, easy.
Yeah, pretty crazy. And it's just so fit. I mean, the Molex. Anyways, we're going to talk about it in a second. Erik, we're going to go ahead and put up your presentation. We got a lot of different things to cover. Can you just give us an overview of what we're about to learn?
Sure. We're going to go through our OE series, which we've talked about a little bit already. We're going to talk about our subwoofers. We're also going to go over some amplifiers. I'm going to show you something new. Our source units, I'm going to show you something new there too. Our ever popular sound bars, and of course, our new portables.
All right, take it away, sir.
Awesome. Well, in our OE series, the GM is our newest series in the OE that we've had out on the market. As I said, we started with Toyota, and then we went into Ford, and GM was the natural next. Now, one thing to notice in all of our OE series is that we try and make it so that you can use this in multiple vehicles. So with the one you see on the screen, the OE69C, I have it here. This is the OE69C component. You'll see that the basket looks just like the factory, and it's going to pop right into place. And we also give you the option to bolt that top piece in rather than just trust the metal clip. Now, the other part of this is that a lot of people forget that there's also a 2.75 in the dash. And so we decided to make that also. But we're selling this separate as an OE275, and this is OE275 GM. So you could buy this separate to put it in the rear pillars or the B pillar. So now we're able to replace every speaker in like a Tahoe or a Suburban. So we've taken care of all of them. Cool thing is this will work with Bose or non-Bose. We are coming out with a version of Bose separates and coaxials that will be in the 2 ohm in the mid-range, but are in the mid-bass. And then the mid-range, of course, is still going to be this OE275. Now, moving on, we've got the 6.5-inch version. That comes in a coaxial and a component. But remember what I said, we try to make it so that you don't have to stock a whole lot of SKUs to fit the brand or the fitment of the vehicle. So if I didn't think this through, I'd have to make you a set for GM that works on early model. And then I have to make you one that works on late model. And then before it's over with, you've got 4 different SKUs. Which one do I use? I'm not really sure. Or you do what Powerbass does, and that's we dig deep and try to figure out how to make this OEM piece fit in multiple year OEM applications. So you'll notice in our Toyota and our Ford that there's extra tabs and things that you might not use, some that break off, and that makes it so that you fit multiple years. You also will notice in the package that there is multiple adapters for different year tweeter fitments and or different year mid-bass fitments. And we also are updating that as we go. In the newer Toyota gift boxes, you'll find a new adapter that's going to work on the 21 and 22 models. And as that changes, we'll start to add more pieces to make it universal fit. But the hardest part was figuring out when a manufacturer made a drastic change. How did you get around that without having to make a whole new model? Well, that's why you think it through and you add, I don't think you can see them here, and you add dual terminals. So you'll see there's 2 terminals here, not dual voice coil, but 2 terminals. So these are able to connect to a late model or an early model GM. You just choose which one and plug in based on whatever plug you have in the car. Therefore, really making it a universal fit. Now, the coaxial is available in a 6.5. The component, however, is something that we're still working on finishing up. It's done. We just got to tidy up a little bit of fitment because you know with OE, everything needs to be just right. And if it's not just right, obviously it's not going to fit. But the cool part about the OE65C GM, which is the component, to me, is the tweeter. So the tweeter is where the real superstar comes in. And this was, again, us kind of thinking it through. Now, what you'll see on the screen is the OE692 GM. That's our coaxial version of the 6x9. So we do everything in a coaxial and a component. Some vehicles do not come with a coaxial, obviously, in the front. They have more of like a dual cone in the front. And so by adding the tweeter, we're actually really giving you a lot more upper end. And the cool thing is some people will do coaxials in the front, even if there's a component, and leave the factory tweeter. And that really, really opens things up. If you like a whole lot of high frequency, that's a great way to do it. But going back to the 6.5 component, the OE65C GM. Now this is where things get fun. The newer model GM tweeter looks like this. And this is kind of where the hard part comes into figuring out what do you do when you have this tweeter in the factory, but you need this tweeter in a different year model? Well, the answer was simple. We made it so our Powerbass tweeter can pop out of this, and I'd pop it out of here, but it gets kind of weird when you do it on video and I want to get it right. But it pops out of here. You can see there's clips that are holding it in all the way around. So you pop that out of those clips, and you'll see in the back of this one, there's clips here, and it pops into this grill. So now this grill turns the tweeter into more of the early model GM fitment. So this is going to slide right into that Tahoe A-pillar, or it's going to work in some of the older Silverados. And then this is going to work in all of your other late model pieces as well. So we've made it so that you have multiple year tweeters. We've made it so you have multiple year fitments on your plugs. So we've really done all of the thinking so that now you only need to carry our GM series, and you're going to take care of most all GMs. Now, keep in mind, there's some models out there that we looked at, and there was some variables that we had to say, how many people are really going to do a whole lot with this? And we had to skip some of them. So understand that we fit most, and it is always best to have the installer look at the speaker, open the door up, look at the speaker, and verify so that you know what is actually going in the vehicle. We do have a fitment guide at powerbassusa.com. It's updated every time we get more information, we update that. And we kind of tell you what fits and what goes where. So in that OE series, there's GM, Ford, Toyota, Nissan, and we're now working on Chrysler, Jeep, and we have BMW in the works, Honda, and a few others. So you're going to see a lot of OE direct fits coming from us. And they're going to be just like the other models where they're going to fit multiple years. They're going to be very useful. And our Jeep, for example, will work in the Jeep, which everybody's got a Jeep, but people forgot about the normal Chrysler. So we're going to make that kit so it works in Jeep and Chrysler, and it's going to be universal fit just like all of our other OE series. Going forward, the other advantage of Powerbass is that we are a subwoofer company too. We didn't forget our roots, or we didn't forget where we came from. We have a full line of subwoofers starting with the S series, super affordable, ultra versatile, works in any type enclosure. This has been our #1 selling subwoofer for year after year after year. Works great, sounds good, handles power, and is affordable. And that's what everybody looks for in a good subwoofer. Now, we do have the XL series, which is the then step up. And what I like to say is all of our subwoofers sound great. However, it's based on application and power. When you want a little bit more output, jump up the line a little bit. The XL series was redeveloped so that it could play a little bit lower and handle a little bit more power. And that's what we came up with the XL 1244, 1044, and 844. And that's what you see on the screen here. The XL has also been a staple in our line for quite some time and is definitely a go-to subwoofer for when you want to do a little bit more power. Now, moving forward, the 2XL series is a new kind of hybrid where we created a compact subwoofer, not shallow, but compact in the 2XL series so that it could take power, provide great bass, and not take up a whole lot of space. And while that's cool and all, we still have the guys that say, hey, you know what? I want even more output. And there is a 2XL standard basket that allows you to give it more power, put it in a vented enclosure, and actually get more output with a super smooth bass response. I'd definitely say if you haven't tried out the 2XL DS, that is going to be one that you definitely want to check out because it's probably one of the cleanest subwoofers Powerbass has ever produced, and it handles power beautifully. Now, for the guys that say, you know what, I want to move some hair and I want to shake some windows, the 3XL series is the way to go. If you're on Instagram, there's tons of guys out there. Powerbass Polar Bear River is one of the guys that I would say definitely go check out. His Scion is packed with 3XL subwoofers. He's been a fan of them for a long time. And you'll see that the 3XL is where power comes in and we really start to get down, move some air, and have fun. And the 3XL with the foam surround is brutal. It's at a point where you can just put a ton of power to it. You can put it in a large ported or even bandpass enclosure, as a lot of guys like to do. Not my favorite, but everyone seems to love those, mainly to just be abusive and move hair and fun, have fun with it. But the coolest one I like is the 3XL8, and I have that little guy right here. So this is our 3XL8, and this is our 8-inch, 500-watt 8-inch subwoofer, 750 watts max, 500 watts RMS. You can put this sealed or ported. It can go in small boxes or it can go in kind of medium-sized boxes. It's good for under seats of trucks. I actually put one of these in a car, in a little hatchback, and it was one of the coolest setups I had. Little 8. I gave it, I think I gave it about 600 watts, and it loved it. And it was one of the more fun setups I had because it was brutal for a single 8. And that's, a lot to say in the 3XL series of our 3XL8. And that's our subwoofers. So we have a lot of subwoofers from entry level all the way up to the SPL or the high output subwoofers. And like I said, we don't forget our roots. That's where we came from. That's where we all came from with subs and amps, right? Now, moving along, we did get into source units, and we decided, power sports is big for us. With something, something like our soundbar, there had to be somewhere else to go from there. So how do we expand on that? How do we get into a little bit more and become the brand that kind of has the solution for everything? We had subwoofers, we had amplifiers, we had soundbars, but we didn't have source units. So we dove headfirst into that market with our MC100, which is the round radio, our XL BTR1. That's a hideaway Bluetooth piece. So you basically just connect that, hide it away, connect your phone to that by Bluetooth. It has an auxiliary 3.5 or 3.5 to RCA out. So you plug that directly into your amplifier. And some guys say, well, can you make me a Power Sports Bluetooth amplifier? Well, yeah, I did. I made the XL BTR1. So any amplifier you want is technically a Bluetooth amplifier, because all you have to do is connect this in line with your power connections of the amplifier, connect its output to the amp's input, and now you have a Bluetooth amplifier. And it can be any model you want, a sub amp, a 5-channel, a 4-channel, doesn't matter. You can feed it signal through the BTR1. The BTRS is a super neat piece. It's a rocker switch fit. It fits in any standard rocker switch. It's Bluetooth. It also has an aux option as well. You do all your controls from that rocker switch, so you can put your phone in the glove box and keep it safe. And then we get into our bigger pieces, or more of our flagship pieces, in the MC150. And I have that guy here with me as well. This is a brand new piece for us. We just brought this out. Now, some guys will say, oh, I had the MC200, and that looks a lot like the 200. Well, you're right, it does. Because when we all went through this weird stage that we've been in for the last couple of years, we know that there was chip shortages, right? And there was problems in the world that were hard for all of us to kind of overcome. And so we all have to be proactive and figure out, how do we maintain and make new products, or how do we continue doing what we're already doing? And there was chip issues, and the 200 was great. It was an amazing piece, but to get all the chips we used to produce that piece, it was impossible. The factory actually stopped making the chips. So we decided to take 2 steps back and run 100 mile an hour forward and develop the MC150 in about 30 days from start to finish. But the only thing we didn't change, obviously, was the face. We did change all of the user interface. So we made it very simple, very smooth, very clean. And you can see that on the screen there. It's still got all of the great features: AM, FM, Bluetooth, auxiliary in, backup camera. It also has equalizer presets, subwoofer settings. It has pretty much all of the great features that you've ever wanted out of a UTV radio, but with a little easier to use user interface. And we changed the chip settings. And to be honest, it turned out to be one of the best pieces, because the price was right, for our customers and for retail, and the usage was perfect. It did everything it needed to do, and we didn't really sacrifice, but we learned that we could pivot very quickly in this market, and it was something we hadn't done before. And I think we're getting pretty good at it. So I think you're going to see a little bit more of that coming soon as well. So let's move along down in the line. Amplifiers is something that we haven't talked about, but let's go ahead and keep on going with power sports and talk about our sound bars. Now you'll see it kind of behind me here. The sound bar is something that you hear us talk about a lot. And with the sound bars, that's really kind of where we fell into the power sports market. We started doing sound bars, and we started to work on what I call the 50 series V2. And that's what you see here. That's our new series, the XL650, 850, and 1250 are our newest models, or the V2 series soundbar. Now, what we did with this is we took our current soundbar that we had at the time, and we took all the feedback. And remember, if I said earlier in the show that we listen to our partners, we listen when you tell us, hey, this could be better, or I wish you could do this, and we add that into our product development. And the neat thing with Powerbass is we do all of our product development here in-house. We're not outsourcing it to someone else to decide what we're going to do. Literally myself and Dave Myers, which some of you guys have met at some of the shows there in Canada, and our engineer, Rich Coe, will sit down and go over this back, forth, and sideways until we know things are right. We also bring in our sales managers. We bring in some of our dealers. And we talk about things openly and honestly. I get out a piece of paper and a pen, we start sketching, and we figure out where we're headed with it. And the next thing you know, the XL50 series V2 soundbar was born. And in that, we changed our controls. We added a turn-on remote wire so that now it can turn on with ignition. So that some of the guys with Jeeps or boats or hard-to-reach places could easily turn the soundbar on and off. And we also changed the DSP settings. We did days and days of listening and retuning to make sure that it sounded the best that it possibly could. We listen to everything, and we take the time to look at the graphs, look at the results, have different ears listen to it, and then come out with what we think is the best sounding product on the market in the soundbar category. And we've done really well with it, and I would venture to say that that's really kind of where our number one SKUs are in our soundbars. And we do a lot of them, but we wanted to grow out of that, and we wanted it to be a full series of other things. So with the auxiliary output from these soundbars and the XL50 V2s, it's a 2-volt full range output. So now you can power our XL series amplifiers to run our XL pods, or to run a subwoofer on your UTV, boat, marine, any application really. We got a lot of cool dudes that are doing the lifted trucks, and they're putting these in the front grille, or they're putting them in the back for tailgating. So if you're a football fan or a race fan and you're at the race tailgating, soundbar would be a great thing for your RV or in the bed of your truck. There's a lot of applications out there for the soundbar, and that's why it's so successful. Now, moving on, we should probably get into our portables. We'll go over the portables now. This is something new for us, something that we decided we're going to pivot, and we're going to do something that we needed to do during the odd times that would enable everyone to enjoy good sound anywhere they were. So we decided to jump into the portable market. And the BT50 was our very first piece. This is the Sound Cube, the BT50. Inside this is AM, FM, and it also has SD card slot here on the side. So you can just put your SD card in there and play your playlist, or you can listen to AM if you'd like, AM, FM if you'd like to. Pick up your local radio station while you're chilling at the beach, or Bluetooth, of course. Now, a neat feature about this is true wireless stereo. So you can now connect 2 BT50s and have true wireless stereo with 2 of these. So it makes it even cooler while you're hanging out on the beach, at the pool, out on a hike, or even in your office. But let me show you the coolest one. My favorite, and the one that everyone really loves, is the BT200. This is probably the best piece we have in the portables. This one is the one everybody's talking about, and this is called the Powerbass BT200 Split. Now you say split, what do you mean split? Well, let me show you how this splits. Now imagine you're in the office and you want something cool on your desk, right? Just split this. Now you have stereo sound right there, Bluetooth. Boom, stereo. Or you can lock it back together, put the sleeve back on it, take it with you out to the beach, to the pool, wherever you want to go. This is waterproof. It can be submerged, but we obviously, if it falls in the water, bring it out, just like anything else, and let it dry off. Passive radiator on each end, and you have separate volume controls for when it is split, or when they're together. You can control your volume with just the master piece. Very cool piece, the BT200 Split. And in our portable series, you're going to see a new model coming very soon, which I hope to be able to present maybe on one of these in the next few months. And we're going to expand on our portables even further. So we take pride in all these things. We listen to everything that comes into place, and we spend a lot of time with tuning and just saying, hey, does this sound right? We listen to a lot of different music and a lot of different styles. And even in the portables, we spend as much time on them as we would a coaxial or a subwoofer. And we made adjustments to make sure that it was the best experience possible from Powerbass, even on the go. And that is pretty much a good recap of everything we wanted to talk about today. So I hope everyone learned something or saw something new that you didn't know. As I said earlier, we're a solutions-based company, and I hope I showed you a new solution.
Well, there was a lot of solutions presented today, Erik, and I'm going to give you an opportunity to catch your breath. That was a great presentation. We've got a quick video about the portables, and when we come back, let's have a discussion on everything we learned. All right. So first of all, thank you so much for that presentation, Erik. Well done.
Yeah, thanks.
I've got a couple notes here. I'd like to circle back to a couple of the products before we get into a wider discussion. You know, the effort and the detail that you've put into developing these OE replacement speakers, I have to commend you for it. You know, not every company would go and do the small little middler or whatever you want to call it. I mean, that takes a lot of tooling. But the fact that you've already thought out the two different connector styles, I mean, this just makes it incredibly easy for the DIY customer as well as the installer. I'd like to hear, Justin, your thoughts on this, because I'm really impressed with the detail there.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to something like that, level of detail matters, right? When you're marketing yourself to be the OEM style direct fit, you have to be able to be the OEM style direct fit. It's not a but scenario, right? It's not, we're OEM, but you still need to make a bracket and cut the wires and, do an adapter. So, I mean, if any of you guys have ever met Dave, like Erik was saying, Dave is pretty badass and ready to jump in and figure stuff out right away. So, with a team like Dave, and Rich Co, and, Erik here kind of overseeing it, it's really awesome because you get the quality and the reliability that you would expect from Powerbass, as well as when everyone ever asks me about like Powerbass, like, what are your thoughts on Powerbass? I just say it delivers. Whatever aspect you're looking for in whatever you're buying from them, it delivers, right? So if you're looking for something that is, loud and dynamic, and it's right and in your face, 2XL's there, it delivers. You know what I mean? If you're looking for slightly amplified, increased sound quality, there's XL, different tweeters, there's so much in the repertoire, and they really do their best to make sure that whether it is their S series, factory, no amplifier, over-the-counter style, mass market replacement style speaker, to their OEM direct fit, all the way to 3XL or ASA 3 amps or Class D or Class AB, or even, now portables. The brand confidence and integrity that Powerbass has as a company, it's in all the pieces, which is really exciting, and it makes a brand, really easy to sell and really easy to build your store upon.
I want to add one more thing. I'm going to pass this over to Erik to comment on this. Not only, what I was going to say is the linearity and consistency of detail, of colors, of choices, of materials, of just that DNA, right through to the portables. I mean, whoever's behind that, I'm guessing it's you, has done a really good job controlling that there hasn't been a large or noticeable deviation as far as style or fit and finish throughout everything that you guys done. So I want to commend whoever was responsible for that. It certainly came through in your presentation.
Awesome. Yeah, I think with us, my predecessors obviously did a great job of putting us in the position where we were. And, coming into this, when I started working here, I started working directly, with them and said, hey, there's other things we can do. There's ways we can expand upon what's already here. And to be honest, there was a time where I think they were kind of afraid of their brand identity. That orange and black, that's Harley Davidson or something like that, or this 9-dot thing doesn't mean anything. And I said, sure it does. I used to work for a brand many years ago that had a nice long name, and then it turned into just one letter. And I said, there's a reason for that. It made sense. And marketing wise, it looked cool. It actually made more sense to do it that way. So we started to really get behind the PB 9-dots. We started to get behind the PBX, but it all had to flow and it all had to look the same, but a little different as you got into the different series. Now, I will say what you're going to see going forward is still that family look, but it's going to evolve. You're going to start to see in 2023 things that are going to be more branded with the dots, and you're going to start to see the orange be brought out in that, but everything is going to be a bit more subtle. So think kind of high fashion in a sense, but still with the Powerbass flair to it. So you're still going to get the family look, but that brand identity is going to grow even more, and the PB 9-dots is going to start to take over.
Justin, a question for you now. As being the distributor, you're dealing with customers all across the country. What kind of feedback have you heard as far as the advantages of partnering up with Powerbass from a dealer perspective?
I mean, with Powerbass, the proof is in the pudding. We don't have a Powerbass dealer that doesn't love to sell Powerbass, right? You know, everyone in the industry wishes every sale was a lay down sale. Okay, we all wish that someone would come in here. Here's $10,000. Take my money. I don't care what you put in it, you know, or I want this. But Powerbass in Canada is quickly establishing itself as a brand that's it doesn't really have an equal in terms of the facets that it covers, and the variety. And, you know, for our dealers, you know, we always talk about the ability to be a one brand store. Well, this is one of those brands that would let you be. You could run your entire store off one brand, whether it's consumer over the counter electronics, or, you know, 412 blow through in the box of a Silverado, with, you know, 9,000 RMS of power.
Right.
Erik's gonna have you covered. You know,
We've got it. Yeah.
I always make a joke because the first time that I got to hang out with these guys at CES, they had a bike there, and it was, I would say it was maybe it was probably 2018, and it was probably at the tip of the big motorcycle craze that was happening, and Dave could only play it for like 4 minutes before CES security would come and yell at Erik and Steven in the booth, right? But this, like I said, you know, I said it along. I said, this is an excitement-based industry. We don't sell. You don't need a subwoofer. You don't need new speakers to live. You don't, you know. But when you can generate that emotion and that feeling with products and with sounds and fit and finish, I mean, you have a recipe for success. And Powerbass does that. And you know, we talked about some things today, but man, we just scraped the tip of the iceberg. You know, there's
barely.
40. Erik could talk 45 minutes on one series of the 4 series of amplifiers.
Yeah, you know, I joke when people say, "Hey, can you come in and do a training at our store?" I say, "How long do you have? This isn't an hour type thing. You better sit down, pack a lunch. It's going to be a minute."
And does that store do marine? Does that store do power sport? I mean,
right.
It just keeps going.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that is really, if there's a message that I need to convey to anyone watching today, it's that, you know, this is an amazing product, and the product offering itself is almost short of disgusting. It's so awesome, because you see companies that make products that this is their product. It has to be paired. It's better when it's paired with their product.
Sure.
Right. And, you know, when you look at like strictly, and even in amplifiers with Powerbass, you have 4 different types of 4-channel amplifiers in one series of amplifier, whether it's class D, class AB, size constrained, footprint. There's not a reason you have to look anywhere else.
Right.
Like, it's just, and, you know, when Erik's talking about those head units, that Bluetooth streaming piece, the completely watertight, that's probably one of my favorite pieces in the repertoire. Hot rods, boats, anyone that doesn't want to replace a twin spin radio, it's right there. I've even had people put the rocker switch in, you know, 53 Chevys, anywhere. They can hide it. You can mount it under the seat, still have full control. It's not evasive. It gives you remote turn on out. It's awesome. It's so smart.
Mm-hmm. So Erik, I want to hear from you. You have the experience. You talk to dealers all the time. Give me 1 or 2 of the feedback that you really want to reflect here, and that new dealers tuning in understand deeply. By partnering up with Powerbass, you will get blank.
You'll get solutions. And I know I keep saying it over and over again, but, you know, I want to really hammer that home. And one thing we didn't talk about in the presentation, but I'll just show you real quick.
Okay.
It's a 7-inch. I mean, who does a 7-inch? Well, Powerbass does. And a 4x10. Who really does that anymore? Well, Powerbass does.
4x10. Where does that even fit?
No, it's some of the older the older Chryslers. They have them. The Delta, Delta 88s or whatever, I think, have them in the rear deck. They're definitely old cars that you don't really see much, but there's the weird fitment that someone needs it, and we have it. The 2.75 Chrysler fit, we have that, or the 4-inch that goes in the bows like Nissan. We have that. And so the reality is you may tell me, hey, I love my Sub and Amp brand and I'm with them forever. And I'm going to say, great. I probably know those people and they're good friends of mine. And you keep doing what you're doing. But understand that I've got direct fit. I've got pieces they don't have. And then maybe if you need just something a little different for a different customer, I've probably got what they want too. And if you don't like this, then let me show you this, this, and this. And the reality is if you give Powerbass just a second and you take a minute and listen to it after you put it in your customer's car, you're going to realize that you just found the diamond in the rough. And then you're going to use it again and again and again. And your customers are going to be happy. And you're going to realize that you just improved your store experience for your customer. And at the end of the day, that's who matters the most. The consumer needs to be happy with their purchase from you as a dealer and from us as a brand. And if we're all doing our job together, everybody's happy down the line.
My last question, you nailed it with a couple of those solution items that you just mentioned that I just got a learning on because I didn't even know they made those sizes or you made those sizes. But give me 3 SKUs that dealers need to must have, like absolutely must have because they're flying off from your warehouse.
Most definitely the OE Direct Fit series, sound bars for certain. And I would say if I had to pick one other piece, I'd do our amplified woofer boxes.
Oh, the powered boxes.
Yeah, self-powered amplified boxes. They're great movers, great pieces to have. It's a good kind of starter system. And the cool thing is, if you did the OE Direct Fit, they have auto turn on, and now
there you go
for add-on.
There you go. Perfect. Man, I'm done. You said you answered every question I could throw at you. You gave us every reason to buy Powerbass. The only thing left is the dealers listening in. Give the guys at BB a call. So I'm going to say bye to you now. For now, Erik, thank you so much for coming in. And you guys tune in tonight. Erik's also featured on CMA Live tonight when we're talking about essential gear. And Erik's going to be on there answering some clutch questions that I have for him. Thank you so much, Erik.
Let's go Red Bull this weekend.
Oh, gosh. He had to slide that in.
Come on, man.
Take care, man.
See ya.
Justin, just to wind this down, I know how passionate you are about this brand. We know how dealers, I mean, we've had dealers come on and talk about how much they love selling Powerbass, and you're totally right. I've heard it myself. One final message. I mean, what else can they make? Seriously, they've pretty much covered it all.
Yeah, it's first off, he waited the entire episode to do the
I know.
thing, right?
I know.
Okay.
Yeah. He actually asked me to do a graphic about it, but our director Sheldon said no, we don't do that.
Honestly, there's no guesswork with Powerbass. I think is a huge thing. I think I talk a lot about brand confidence because nobody wants to sell something they're not unsure. They're not sure of. And Powerbass does deliver. He talked about the prefab, their aircraft grade quality vinyl on them, two-tone, but like we could do a whole episode on that. The SKUs are enormous in the lineup, and the difference that separates them from a lot of people is the fact that any Eastern manufacturing is done and owned by Powerbass, right? It is, Erik told me a story once where he was quality control checking screws, like the screws that mount the speakers, and I think when a lot of dealers get confused when they see certain prices from Powerbass, they think that there's, something's got to give, or there's got to be a short sell somewhere. But because there is no middleman with them, because there's not multiple hands in the pot, they're able to provide a product of exceptional quality at exceptional value.
Yeah.
And it's a wonderful brand. Absolutely.
Powerbass, if you want more info, you've seen the info on the bottom here. And if you're a dealer in Canada looking to become the newest Powerbass dealer in your neighborhood, give the team at BB Distribution a call, bbdistribution.ca. Justin, another good one. Thank you so much for coming in, sharing with us everything that there is to know about Powerbass.
Perfect. Thank you, man.
Take care. So if you're hanging in with us this long, thank you so much. But I got some important information for you. We want to remind you to continue tuning into CMA Networks right through to June 14th as we are deep into the car audio sessions every single day is another deep dive, one-on-one with another brand, as you can see here in the image, right through till June 14th. And if you want to catch up on all the videos, make sure you visit cmanetworks.com. Totally redesigned, easy to search for videos, whether it's by brand, by category, or even by trainer. Go check out both Erik Harbour from Powerbass. He has his own profile, as well as Justin Bond. That's it. Thanks for tuning into this CMA Connected presented by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.
I mean, yeah, let's talk about
Stop
today's the day where I'm gonna go
Yo.
topics.
Roll it down.
I am.
You don't need a car to listen to SiriusXM. You can listen anywhere. You know that, right?
What? Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio.
Kevin, you could use your phone.
What? What?
Alexa, play Kevin Hart's Laugh Out Loud Radio on SiriusXM.
What?
This is how I know you're getting old. I guess that was it.
What?